Hi, I'm Pastor Paul, and I had the honor of preaching this last week on Isaiah 6, and the calling that God had on Isaiah's life and the challenge of being called by God that we have. And I posed before us a couple of questions asking, as we wrestled through that, where in your life are you experiencing the presence of God? Where are we experiencing the presence of God? What is it that we need to come and to confess before God? And then also, how will we respond to the calling of God? And we continued that dialogue with another set of great questions. We're so thankful again for you continuing to ask great questions as we continue this dialogue. And this first question comes from Mike, and he asks, is our confession of inadequacy wrong? Isn't it rather the case that we need to confess that we are too much? Mike, I so agree with you in that question of, isn't it often that we are too much? And I think sometimes that's actually our inadequacy. I think our inadequacy can be that we try too hard, that we are trying to come and tackle with something on our own strength. And so I think sometimes what we can do is, in coming and confessing that we are inadequate, can actually be that no matter what, even if we're trying too hard, we need to come and learn to say we are too much, that we can't do it on our own. And so I think we're both trying to get at kind of the same idea, that we come confessing that we sometimes are too much, we try too hard. The next question comes from Elizabeth, and she asks, how in the physically demanding, messy, imperfect workings of my life do I find strength in God? This is a question I wrestle with often as well. And I think what I hear at the heart of that question for me is, how do I find God in the everyday? Or how do I find what I'm doing every day to be purposeful? And how do I create space for that? How do I find strength in God in that? And I think the beautiful thing that we believe as a covenant people is that we're better together in this. That every moment of every day God is active and alive, but that there's always tomorrow. That we look at entering into powerful conversations with trusted friends and community. That's why we gather here every week, and why we gather as a community throughout the week. And so I think we wrestle through those questions together. And I think that's often where our strength comes, is even in the present moment, if I feel like what I'm doing doesn't feel like it has purpose. And I want to be very clear too. I think whatever it is that your day is filled with is an opportunity to enter in, that God is calling you into those spaces, whether that's going to the workplace, whether that's staying at home with kids, whether that's working on the daily finances or working on the house at home, whatever that looks like. I believe God is using our life, and that every moment might not feel as purposeful as others, but that altogether God is still using us for His good and for His glory. And we seek that together as a covenant people. And that kind of leads to the last question that Annie asks. And she says, if two people who are both called by God but disagree on how to help the oppressed, how are they to engage in that? Are there ways to engage that question? And I would actually pose Annie's question to all of us. I think there are no easy answers to that question. I think it is very important for us to wrestle through, what does it mean to be called by God? And even if we disagree, how do we move forward? And again, the thing that I would call us to is that we as a covenant people have always sought to find a middle way, a way in which we can say, I might not agree with you on that, but we're both seeking after God together. And the opportunity for us to wrestle with that together both allows us to strengthen our relationship with God, but it also hopefully allows us to strengthen our relationship together. That we don't have to believe the exact same things, but if we're seeking God together, then as we seek to help the oppressed, that even if we both have completely different avenues in which way that takes form and shape, we have the opportunity to see God's kingdom furthered together, even if we disagree. That's the beautiful thing about the covenant church and the beauty of what it means to be called as the people of God. In all of our diversity, we celebrate that. We celebrate the differences of opinions that we have, and we wrestle through those things together to seek after God's will together, to be living out God's call together in whatever capacity that may look like. Again, I so appreciate all the questions, and continue to invite you into that space to wrestle with your questions with each other, but to do so in a loving manner that honors each other and seeks God's will together. Have a wonderful week this week.